What's the most disgusting thing you experienced when you first became an adult? I joined the adults table for the first time this year. Now I wish I never grew up. It's not blood that binds us but tradition. Customs that we live by, that we cherish and pass on to our children when they grow old enough. Tradition is everything to this family, and as you are a part of it, you have no choice but to value and live by our rules. That's literally what I've been told on the car ride to each family function we've ever had. I'm not kidding. Either my father or mother will say those exact same words. One time I jokingly said them myself before either of them could, but then my mom repeated them anyway, acting like she didn't hear me. They emphasize the importance of tradition so much because they know I can't stand our holiday evening with the extended family. To be honest, I can't stand those people in general. You see, my extended family is incredibly odd. They always have been, forever will be, and every time I see their peculiar faces, I notice even more how strange everything about them is. Especially now that I'm growing older. My grandma was a horrible woman. My uncles are greedy, rude men. My aunts do nothing but pick you apart. And don't even get me started on my cousins. Loud, annoying, and incredibly disgusting little kids that make one evening together feel like being stuck inside a dreadful school cafeteria for an entire month. Luckily, I don't see them often. We only ever get together during the holidays in December. So technically it's not a bad deal. A night spent with the sticky cousins for a year of peace from this family. My Aunt Margaret always hosts. It used to be my grandmother before she passed away a few years ago. As my aunt inherited the house, she also took over the pleasure of being the host for holidays. Welcome home, my lovelies. Aunt Margaret stood on the porch of the familiar old house as we got out of the car. Her red hair was blow-dried. She was wearing a violet dress that looked like it should have been left in the 50s, as well as Grandma's familiar apron with lemons on it. Mom jumped up the stairs with the kind of energy she never usually has and gave her sister a big hug. Dad followed with the bottle of wine they bought in one hand and a bouquet of flowers in the other. Happy holidays, Margie, he said as he gave her a kiss on the cheek. Everything was exactly the same as always, which meant that I was next. Margaret waited for me as I made the last step up the stairs to the porch. Then she gave me a hug so tight that I felt this morning's breakfast moving up to my throat. Her lavender perfume wasn't exactly helping the sudden nausea I got. Oh Mel, how big you've grown, she said through those lipstick-stained teeth. How old are you now? 16? I nod. Yeah, my birthday was a month ago. It's not like any of them sent a card or bothered to call. Still a little too young, I suppose, she whispered, and I felt her hot breath against my ear. As we got into the spacious entry hall, more uncles and aunts appeared to greet us. Kids were running around, playing, and it already felt like being inside a zoo. I got 2 wet kisses from Aunt Tully and Trudy, the twins, as well as a handshake from each of their respective spouses. Uncle Ted and Uncle Theo, who both smell like ashtrays, gave me hugs and made some stupid jokes as the entire company made their way to the winter garden where the rest of the adults were having a drink. That's where we usually sit around and do chit-chat before dinner time. I could already feel the headaches settle in, as well as the fear that Margaret might want my help when a hand grabbed me and pulled me back. Mateo, I exclaimed happily. I was already afraid he somehow got out of coming this year. Mateo was the only cousin that I can actually stand. Maybe because he's the only one that is almost my age, less than 2 years older. Usually, he was the only one that made dinner a little fun for me, but last year my only decent cousin was invited to the adults table while I had to stay with the kids. The table arrangement is a pretty big deal to this family. We don't even sit in the same rooms. My cousin looked exactly the same as last year, only an inch or two taller. From our looks, you'd never guess that we're related. Mateo has dark curly hair, mine is straight and blonde. He has blue eyes, mine are brown. He's pale and I'm tan. The only thing we have in common is the absurd clothes we have to wear because of the dress code. My mother left the purple satin dress with a bow around the waist on my bed this morning, and with it I had to put on those horrible black patent shoes. Mateo wears a black shirt, and around his neck is the bow tie in the same shade of purple as my dress. Our family color. Come with me, Mateo whispered, and I followed. We walked all the way through the house to the garden, which is on the opposite side of the building to the winter garden where the rest of the family was. We sat down on the stairs that lead down to the grass, and Mateo pulled out something from his pocket. He grinned as he showed me the joint he apparently rolled this morning. Want to start our own family tradition? I anxiously looked back at the house. They won't notice, don't worry, he said, and pulled out a lighter. So how have you been the past year? He asked after we sat there for a while. I shrugged. Pretty much the same as always. How about you? Yeah, same. You know, I wanted to call you the other day. Couldn't find your number anywhere though. When I asked my dad, he just said no. Like I said, our families only ever get together during the holidays. We're never in touch except for that. He said no. I laughed, but Mateo stayed serious. Weird, right? I also tried to find you online, but without luck. Anyway, do you remember the last time we were here? He said while biting his nail. Yeah, but we didn't really talk then. Remember I had to stay at the kiddies table. Now his eyes opened wide. You didn't eat with us? Okay, how much of this did you smoke? I laughed again. It's so weird, Mel. I hardly remember last year, and when we got ready to drive down today I felt so strange about. There you guys are. A shrill voice behind us interrupted him. Aunt Margie, I said, trying to think of an excuse already, but she didn't seem to care what we were doing. The sun's almost down. Come on, it's dinner time. And so I finally was invited to sit with the adults of the family for dinner. I'd never been inside the dining room before. It was much more spacious than I imagined. The wooden table in the middle of the room could seat at least 10 more people. I didn't understand why I was never allowed to sit with them before. The room was next to the one for the children, though we didn't hear a sound from next door. Around this time they were probably already being served the food by the kitchen staff. No fancy food. At the kids' table, we always got chicken nuggets, fries, stuff like that. I was curious to see what the adults were eating. I sat down next to my mother, who smiled with her mouth but not with her eyes. On the opposite side of the table was Mateo, who looked confused, which at that moment I blamed on the weed. I looked at the table in front of me and was surprised to see that there was no food. No cutlery either. We all had one plate with a little black box on it. I reached for it, but before I knew what was happening, Margaret appeared beside me and slapped my hand. Not yet. When I looked up again, I noticed that all the adults were watching me. I swallowed, suddenly wishing I was in the other room with the kids. The atmosphere in the room was so tense and I didn't understand why. Until Margaret took a seat at the head of the table. Welcome, family. It's not blood that binds us but tradition. Customs that we live by, that we cherish and pass on to our children when they grow old enough. Tradition is everything to this family, and as you are a part of it, you have no choice but to value and live by our rules. I swallowed. I realize it hasn't been the same since Mother left, she continued. She was the heart of our holiday after all, but with all the obstacles thrown my way I still try to do my best. And you do it so wonderfully. Trudy shouted out in glee, although something about her speech pattern sounded forced. Why, thank you, sister. I am glad to see our family grow. She looked at me when she said that, and for some reason, a shiver went down my spine. Should we help you serve dinner? I asked so that the awkward moment would pass by more quickly. Everyone laughed in response. Confused, I looked at Mateo, but his expression was empty. Now, family, it is time for our tradition. Please open your boxes. Everyone immediately grabbed the box in front of them, so I did the same. I lifted the upper part only to realize that it was empty. I looked over at Mom's and it was empty too. So were the ones of Dad, Mateo, and pretty much everyone else. Except for Theo's. He brought out a knife and placed it onto the table. Well, everyone, Aunt Margaret announced, smiling. Looks like we've chosen our dinner this year.